Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are going to jump right in because it is already one after, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. So glad you're here. We're going to be recording this. Feel free to tune in, tune out, because it's going to be a lot of content. You can always watch it back later. But first and foremost, if we haven't met yet, my name is Allison Steife. I am the college and career counselor for early college students and web college students who are in Central, Eastern, and Southern Oregon. And Jennifer is here tonight too.
Hi guys, Jen Tracewell here, and I cover Portland, Salem, Eugene regions for early college, web college, and then also the Web Academy side. So welcome everybody who showed up in the next of our awesome Ready, Set, College series. And Allison has a great show for you tonight on how to write that rockstar essay.
That's right. It's essay night, which is my favorite night because I was an English major and now I'm a college counselor. So it's like my two worlds combined, reading, writing, and college admissions. So we are going to keep everybody muted or ask you to be on mute if you're not already on mute, just to keep things nice and peaceful. I think we've all got that down pretty much after 2 years of living on Zoom. But just a reminder, if you do have a question, tonight Jen is going to be running our chat. So she'll be here till 6:45. And after that, we'll open it up for questions at the end to unmute yourself. So she'll be hanging around and answering things or shouting questions out to me. So feel free to throw them in there or contact us afterwards. Jen can put our contact info in the chat and you can copy paste it into your own little doc. You can also, I'm going to maybe say this a lot tonight, and I said it a lot if you were here at our last Ready, Set, College webinar about applications, that you can schedule an appointment with us. So we're going to talk about a lot of things tonight, but especially when it comes to essays, one-on-one doing that is where it's at. Us being able to read your essay, talk about what you're writing about, makes a big difference. So we're going to talk about a lot of things in general tonight, but we would love to talk to you specifically about your essays. So Jen can throw the link to scheduling an appointment in as well. I can add that at the end too to the chat. So feel free to look there for a link. Just to kind of cover where we've been and where we're going with this webinar series. Maybe you've been here for all of them. If not, here's what we've covered so far. We talked about financial aid back in September. 2 weeks ago, we talked about just college apps in general and how to access them and fill them out and what they're all about. And tonight we're talking essays. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about scholarships. And Jen is going to give you everything you need to know about what that process looks like. Because that's maybe the number one thing I get asked about as a college and career counselor is how do I pay for college? So that will be in 2 weeks. But tonight, we are going to look at writing an essay that people want to read, that admissions counselors will enjoy. We'll talk about types of essays, some major do's and don'ts, some kind of tips through the process of writing them, and I'm going to share some of my favorite resources at the end. I was just chatting with Jen before we welcomed you all in here about good grief. People write books on how to write a great college essay. So we're going to talk about it for 45 minutes. So we're going to fly through it and it's going to be wild and it's not going to cover everything. So we'll get you going. We'll get your wheels turning. But like I said, feel free to make an appointment with us to keep chatting about it. First things first, though, there are different kinds of essays that you're going to see, different kinds of prompts that you will see, and your answers will vary based on those prompts. So I just want to give you a kind of a quick snapshot about what to expect as far as kinds of essays go. So first and foremost, for almost every school, not every school, some schools don't require essays, but for every school that does require an essay, usually they're going to require a personal statement of some sort. And these are the prompts that are on the Common App, which a lot of colleges use, and we talked about 2 weeks ago, where you just get to choose one of these and write about yourself. And the thing I love about personal statements is that it's really your chance to show not who you are in numbers or in how many extracurricular activities you did and for how long. This is where you get to show your personality. This is where you get to show the admissions counselors who you are, what you're like, what it would be like to have you in a class or on campus. And so it's fun. It's meant to be fun. It's not meant to be super serious necessarily. It's fine to write about something serious, but it's just meant to show who you are in a positive way. So something to keep in mind as you're figuring out which prompt to choose, and your school might have a different one and you might not have choices. They might say, write exactly about this thing. For the most part, you usually get choices. The UC application gives you choices. So you usually have some options. And as you're choosing an option, it's really important as you're choosing a prompt to think not just what is the question, but what are they looking for? What do they want to know about me if I do choose this prompt? So for example, a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. They don't just want to know about the time that something hard happened. They want to know about what you're like under pressure. What do you do when you fail? Because guess what? At college, you're going to be under pressure. You're probably going to fail. And they want to know how you'll show up when that happens. When you look at a prompt like a time you questioned or challenged a belief or idea, they want to know that you're capable of thinking outside of your own box, of questioning your beliefs. Because again, at college, you're gonna be expected to broaden your horizons, think new thoughts, and not just stay white knuckled onto the way you see the world as you know it. So think about as you're reading through these prompts, not just what are they asking at face value, but what do they want to know about you and why? How might that apply to how they picture you in an educational setting? So when you're thinking about the personal statement, again, kind of what they're assessing is your personality, like I was talking about. They also just want to know what's not in your application. So whatever you do, unless they're specifically asking you to talk about something that's already in your application, write about something new and different, and that doesn't fit in the classes you've taken and the extracurriculars you've done. They want to know that you can write. So they're also assessing your writing ability. Some colleges will say that's less important. Some colleges will say that's actually what's most important is being able to see that the student knows how to write well. So that's where editing really comes in handy. I even need everything I write edited. So make sure you're getting extra eyes on your essays. And then, like I said, also, they want to know what you'll contribute, how you'll show up on their campus, what you'll bring to their classrooms and their community. So as far as types of responses go, yes, there's a million different prompts to choose from, it feels like. One of them is even just write anything, which if you do carefully and very intentionally. But You can literally write about anything. But as you're writing about anything, there are two general types of essay that work very well for a personal statement. One is a narrative, so literally telling a story. And better yet, telling a story that only you can write. And I'm going to say this a few times throughout tonight. So the more specific, the more personal that story, the better. Because these poor college counselors are reading so many essays, and they can tell very early on within a few sentences if this is an essay they've read before. Maybe not literally, but figuratively, in the sense that, oh my gosh, I've heard so many college counselors say, you guys, if I have to read another essay about the service trip you went on and how you went to change lives, but your life was changed instead, I just want to throw it in the garbage. And it's not because that's not a good story. It's not meaningful to you and not true. It's just something that a lot of people can write because a lot of people have been on service trips and done volunteer work. And so think about something that like truly only you have done, or something about that experience, even if others have had it, changed you or impacted you in a very specific way. So telling a story, literally writing a narrative, which hopefully you all have done in a writing class before. Or the other kind of response that works really well for personal statements, it's called a montage. And this is where when you think about a montage in a movie, right? And they're like, music is playing in the background and they're cutting to different scenes. And it just kind of gives you a feeling. That's kind of what you can picture with a montage. It's little snippets of something rather than one big story, but they're all tied together somehow. So tying smaller ideas together through one setting or theme, or sharing one value or one idea in a variety of settings. So one example of this that I've heard of, that again, if I'm sharing the example with you, don't just take it and run with it because it's been done. But just to get your wheels turning, you're doing an essay on the stickers on your laptop or your water bottle or whatever, and choosing a few stickers and writing about how they each represent something important to you. So there's one idea, right? I collect stickers, and here's how they all represent me and different pieces of me. On a different kind of realm, I read an essay this fall that a student wrote, where she basically wrote about different ways she experiences beauty. So each paragraph was a different way that she finds beauty in the world. So that's another example of a montage. So those are usually, again, the types of responses that work well stylistically. And again, I said this a couple times in a couple ways, but have fun with it, keep it light, even if the topic is heavy, end it in a positive, optimistic way. The world is a rough place right now, you guys. I don't have to tell you about it. Pessimism is rampant. And the last thing that college counselors want to read is something that gets them down. They make their day a little brighter. This admissions counselor at Indiana University said, during these difficult times, it will be encouraging for students and those reviewing these essay responses to be reminded of the joy and hope and generosity and gratitude. So focus on those kinds of words as you're thinking about a prompt and your topic and your response when it comes to personal statements. How can you make it something nice to read? Other kinds of essays, just really quickly, you're going to see them, but they're going to be a lot shorter, but they're still important. So these are called supplemental essays. So these are These are going to supplement your application, not be like necessarily a major focus. But you might see prompts like, why this college? Or why do you want to study that thing that you wrote down that you want to study? Tell us about one extracurricular that has been very valuable to you. Talk to us about a way that you have impacted your community. I love a good wildcard essay too, the ones that are like, if you could choose any roommate, living or dead, real or fictional, who would you choose? Each of these are kind of getting at something different, but they're just additional opportunities to tell these people more about who you are and what you would bring to their campus. And so, the ones about why this school and why this major are really asking, how intentional are you being about your future? Have you researched our school? What do you know about our school? The last thing you should do is write one version of that essay. Please, please, please write a very different essay for each school. They will be able to tell if you just write general things about, I really value diversity and your school does that and blah, 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 blah. No. Write about specific moments. When I was touring your campus and I stepped foot in your business building, I knew that is where I wanted to learn the world of business. Right. So talk about the moment that you discovered their school and why it interested you, and why you're applying, and expand on that. They, again, want to know how you're going to contribute to their campus, what kinds of skills, experiences, values have you not written about in your personal statement that here you go, here's another opportunity to share. They're usually short. Your response is going to be short, much shorter, rather than like 650 words for a personal statement. It'll be more like 100, 150 words. But just because it's short doesn't mean that you can't make it colorful and fun to read, right? So still show them why you want to study chemistry. Don't just tell them, I want to study chemistry to blah, blah, blah. Tell them about why do you, what's an experience that you had with chemistry that sparked your love for it. And how do you envision your future with this degree in chemistry? Demonstrate that you've done research about their school, that you know what you're talking about, and make sure you're referring back to the personal statement prompts to see how you can tie in maybe something you didn't write about. So if you didn't write about a challenge that you've faced, use one of these supplemental essays to talk about, throw in the idea that like you love a good challenge somehow, right? So that can be a good way to kind of spark creativity as you're writing these personal statements. Or as you're writing these, supplemental essays. So those are the supplemental ones. Last but not least, but also kind of least, because it's the least important for the most part, is what I would call explanation essays. So these are going to be basically, not every school is going to give you the opportunity to. In fact, potentially very few will. Most Common App schools will give you the opportunity to write a COVID-19 impact essay. But basically, these essays are like, if there's something you feel like you need to explain in your application, a semester off, a chunk of time where you, your grades were not what you wanted them to be, or just something that you feel like, man, let's say like you consistently have a hard time passing English. And it's because you have dyslexia, and nowhere in your application does it mention the fact that you have dyslexia yet. This is an opportunity to write about, this is why English is hard for me. Here are the things I've done and plan to do in order to overcome this challenge in my life. So again, keep it positive. Don't just whine about how something was hard, especially if you write a COVID-19 impact statement. That's going to be something very significant that happened to you because of COVID-19 that impacted your education. everybody's education was impacted by COVID-19. So do not write something that everybody could possibly write. Let us know. This is a great one to like check with your college career counselor on to see, this went down. Should I write an impact statement or an explanation essay? This is a great one to run by us. And they're going to be very individualized. So I'm not even going to get into types of responses. Just, this is a good one to chat with us about. Okay, so those are the general types of essays that you're going to see and potentially write. Now I want to talk about some do's and don'ts. And this is where, for me, it gets fun, because this is like where the rubber meets the road. You're going to start thinking about what you're going to write about, start writing. What are some like major things to avoid? What are some things to maybe try instead? So I've talked about topics a lot already, but one thing I really want to make clear when it comes to do's and don'ts is to focus on, again, one topic or story that only you can tell, and don't try to fit everything into one essay. One essay that I did not enjoy reading a couple of years ago, I'll be real with you guys too. Like there are essays that I've read that I haven't loved. And it was, he was just trying to say too much about his relationship with music. He wanted to express that he takes music very seriously and also enjoys it and does a lot with it. So he wrote about the music camp he went to and the album that he wrote and the musicals he was in. And it just was a little too much. And so it didn't make a big impact. It was also a lot of kind of repeating things that he had in his extracurriculars. And so don't try to rewrite a resume, just tell a story or focus on one thing that's really important to you, and what that has looked like in a moment of your life. And also when it comes to topics, don't just think about what you want to write about, but think about the why. So if you want to write about the summer you spent with your aunt in Europe because it was a cool experience, okay, but why was it a cool experience is not even good enough. It's how did that impact you in a very specific way? And do not just tell me, this is one thing we're going to talk about too. Do not just tell me, show me. So not just the what, but the why, and focus on one topic, not a lot. Less is more. Less is more when it comes to entrance essays. Remember that. Less is more. When it comes to length, you definitely want to use all the words that you can. If they're giving you 650, try to use 650 or 640 at least. But please, in an attempt to show that you're trying to use every word, do not repeat yourself. Do not repeat the prompt. Don't say more than you need to say in order to tell your story. Tell your story well and take advantage of those 650 words. Don't feel like you need to fill them. They can tell the difference between someone who has 650 words worth of something to say versus somebody who is just trying to say something and happen to use 650 words, right? So I love that picture. Very young, small, early peas. No, use one word, use one adjective, use a really good one, and then you can write more. Then now you have more words that you can use to say something else, right? So when it comes to the opening, you guys, openings are like one of my favorite things to write with students. You've heard your English teacher say it before, use a hook, right? You guys hopefully know what a hook is. It's something that makes the reader want to keep reading. right? The like, oh, tell me more moment. Again, these, you guys, I'm going to say a lot, these poor college counselors, I know they love their jobs, but they read so many essays. And so how fun is it for them? And how much will your essay stand out when they pick it up and the first line they read excites them? The worst thing you can do, well, I mean, you could probably do a lot of a lot of things that I wouldn't recommend, but the worst thing I think that you can do is just repeat the prompt. A time when I was changed in a significant way was the whatever. No, I had a girl. Okay, so an example. I had a girl. Oh my gosh, it was such a great essay. She wrote. The student was partially deaf and wrote about her experience in overcoming her fear of public speaking through her public speaking class at her community college. So she could have written a very boring intro, you guys. She never did because we brainstormed beforehand, but she could have just written, as you know, as a deaf person, I was significantly changed by my experience in my public speaking class. You know, something blah, blah, blah. No. Instead, I don't remember what her hook was exactly, but it captured this idea. It captured this moment of, you know, as a deaf person standing in front of my class, giving my first speech, I was shaking uncontrollably, right? It like put them in, I don't remember what it was, but it like put them in that moment with her of like, oh no, is she going to be able to give her speech? What's going to happen? Right. So, use a hook. Some examples of hooks that either I've seen or other college counselors have seen and said they loved it. Oh wait, we'll get to the list in a second. First, I'm going to show you a not so great and then a better example. So my most significant extracurricular activity is my involvement in field hockey, because in field hockey, I have learned the importance of teamwork, perseverance, and hard work. This sounds okay. There's nothing explicitly wrong with this, you guys. It is answering the prompt. It sounds very professional, right? So I could totally see why students would write this. Like, don't get me wrong. A lot of students do write this, but that's the problem, is a lot of students write this. So instead, you could try something like, the day I stopped a goal with my forehead was the day I learned how important field hockey was to me. Puts you in a moment. It conveys a feeling, right? And it gives the opportunity for her to expand on the ways in which field hockey changed her, but through a specific day. She might talk about teamwork and perseverance and hard work. You know, she'll probably sprinkle those things in, but she's gonna show the reader and not tell the reader. This is a perfect example of telling versus showing, right? So here are some more examples. You guys, I read this today. It was not a Baker student. It was an example on a different website. And I ended up crying. This essay made me cry. Talk about like a good essay. But this was the first line. Here's a secret that no one in my family knows. I shot my brother when I was 6. I get chills even reading it now, you guys. This is cool for so many reasons. One, they're telling the admissions counselor something that nobody else knows. So that grabs them in immediately, right? And then it's the fact that he shot his brother. Oh no, right? It ended up telling this beautiful story about this guy's relationship with his brother and how there was a lot of jealousy growing up and how he overcame that. Not necessarily by shooting his brother, but that was like a moment that then drew the reader in. It makes me laugh. It makes me cry. Talk about a good essay, right? I used to be a soccer player. This says a lot without saying much at all. So I used to be a soccer player. We used to be. What happened? Anytime that you can very creatively create a question in the reader's mind through your first line, it's gold. So the reader immediately thinks, used to be, what happened, right? Now they need to read to find out. It's an odd combination, ancient Celtic war dances and refined French ballet. Okay, the student is a dancer. At no point do they say, I am a dancer who happens to practice Celtic war and French ballet, right? So we know she's a dancer. And I don't know anything about ancient Celtic war dances or French ballet. So that sounds interesting. And it is odd. And tell me more. 6 feet. That's what I wanted to be. What I like about intros like this is it breaks some grammar rules. You guys are allowed to, you're allowed to break some writing rules because this is kind of creative writing. So don't go too outside of the box, but it's okay to use an incomplete sentence. Oh, my computer's doing something. So it's okay to branch out stylistically, especially with that intro. You don't necessarily want to do that the whole time. But you do want to use those kind of stylistic moments wisely. Let me just check in and make sure. Jen, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All is well. It just
I didn't know what my computer was doing, so I just wanted to make sure it's
fall asleep on you. I don't know.
Oh no. I want to make sure it wasn't like a major glitch of any sort. Oh,
no, you were good.
Okay. So, okay. Any questions that are standing out or that could be talked about while I find my slide that I was on?
Slide 20.
All right, there we go. Okay. Let's try this again, you guys. So, I think those were all of the, oh no, well, and then I threw in, so just for funsies, the start of my personal statement. The first sentence of my personal statement that I wrote for my college, I don't know why I remember this, you guys. Again, I'm like weird and I really like college entrance essays. It was just simple. I am blonde. And I wrote about growing up in Southern California as a blonde girl and how I couldn't have felt like I fit in less. And so it's okay to just start with something short. Shorter is usually better for an intro. So, so keep that in mind. You've heard me say it. Now you get to see it in writing. Do show, don't tell. Again, this is something you've probably heard most of your writing professors or teachers talk about. One great way to think about this that it's right. This is, I will fully admit, I'm not on TikTok, but I think it came from TikTok, this trend that trickled into Instagram and other social media platforms. But this whole tell me something without telling me something. So, as a mom, so I'm a mom, so right, I follow other moms. And so there's a lot of jokes about like, tell me you're a mom without telling me you're a mom. And they'll cut to, pictures of their house where like their house is just like a disaster or whatever, right? It's like it paints a picture without of the fact of the reality that I am a mom. My life is cuckoo, but it's so much more interesting than just saying I'm a mom. And so tell me if hopefully you guys have heard of this and I'm not just like totally out of touch, but I've seen it everywhere, this like trend. So if you've seen that too, that's a great way to think about this idea of show, don't tell. Tell me without telling me. So here's some examples of what that looks like. So this is an example of telling, right? The summer after my junior year, I traveled to Italy with my grandparents. I had had a really tough junior year with tons of work and pressure. I had spent the year keeping up an A- average. Oh no, an A average, playing number one singles in tennis, and even holding down a job. In Italy with my grandparents, I learned to relax and not take myself and life so seriously. Again, it's not bad, the complete sentences that are conveying an idea, right? But it's not very fun to read. So, on a melting Italian afternoon in July, our rental car steamed into town. Watching the scenery pass by, I was jolted out of my stupor. Was that the Leaning Tower of Pisa? I blinked and straightened up. Oh, what a sight. The Leaning Tower was real. It was also really leaning. At that moment, my commitment to perfection began to crumble. You guys, it's so much better. Isn't that cool to read? It's a moment. He's bringing you into a moment. And you still get the gist, right? That he's a perfectionist who goes on a trip to Italy and is changed, particularly starting with this moment that he sees something beautiful that's not perfect, something iconic that's not perfect. So you get it? You get it? Let's look at another one. I want to help people. I have gotten so much out of life through the love and guidance of my family. I feel that many individuals have not been as fortunate. Therefore, I would like to expand the lives of others. What great sentiments. Those are wonderful things. But what about this? My mom and dad stood on dozens of sidelines until their shoes filled with water and their fingers turned white. That kind of commitment is what I'd like to bring to working with fourth graders. Okay, this is cool because not only does this person bring you into a specific moment, but they also bring you into their future very quickly in 2 sentences. Right? This is much shorter than this is, but it says so much more than this does, right? I know a lot of students, I'm just going to pause. I know a lot of students will read these examples of showing versus telling, or they'll read these examples of really strong narratives, narrative personal statements, and feel very intimidated. Because this is a creative endeavor. It can feel kind of artistic, right? Choosing nice words and descriptive words and so I get it. It can feel like I can't write like that. If that is your first thought, I want you to acknowledge that. Oof, this is going to be hard for me, but it doesn't mean that you can't do it. People are innately storytellers. I think I like deep down believe that is something that we all have in common, is the ability to tell stories. I think it's part of what makes us human and our ability to connect with stories. That's why stories and narratives are such a common, strong personal statement, because it creates this sense of connection. We connect through stories. So you're welcome to doubt the ease of writing like this, but I challenge you, do not tell yourself I can't write like this, because you can. I wish that you could sit in, have a snapshot of the process, the writing process that I've been through with students, where we're meeting regularly, and it's not the good example right away. It takes a lot of tweaking and brainstorming and doing a lot with it until it becomes that. But yours can become that too. Okay, so you can do it. I just know I believe in you. And that gets us kind of into the process, right? The idea that this is, you don't just sit down and write an essay like that. You don't just sit down and write a personal statement and then say, okay, looks good, submit. It takes multiple steps to do this well. And it takes multiple editors in every step sometimes. I would say not too many editors. I'll talk about that. But you want to involve people in this process, and you want it to be a process. So yes, dark and difficult times lie ahead. Soon we must all face the choice between what is right and what is easy. You said it well, right? It's not necessarily going to be easy, but it's going to be awesome. Your final product is going to be awesome if you follow through on an actual process and involve others in it. So I'm not going to talk a ton about the writing process because y'all are high school seniors, probably a lot of you. And so you've had a lot of English classes that have talked about the writing process many times. But I just want to make a couple quick comments on what I think is really important in each of these steps when it comes to writing your college essays, your entrance essays. So make sure, please, that you brainstorm. Don't just like write an essay based on the first thought you have about the first prompt that you read, right? In fact, because you get to choose a lot of prompts, it's fun to brainstorm even before you choose a prompt. And then you get to choose, okay, what thing do I really want to write about? And which prompt will that fit best in? That's what they want you to do, right? Is write about like the best thing you can write about. That's why they give you so many options. So some ways that you might find yourself brainstorming is doing something called a values sort. I'm going to show you a resource that has some links to some kind of brainstorming activities, and that's one of them, where you get to really narrow down like, what is the thing in life that is most important to me, and thinking about why and what stories in my life have connected me to that value. That is, I think, one of the best ways to do this. If you are, again, doing a supplemental essay and talking about why this school or why this program, why this major at this school, make sure you are researching the heck out of that. And then again, talk with somebody, do this with somebody. I love brainstorming sessions with students. I miss the days where like we were in person and we could like go crazy on a whiteboard and like write out every crazy idea and like connect them, and whatever, it would turn into like one of those like murder mystery maps where like things are all connected. And but it's so fun to do with somebody. So make it fun. That somebody can be a college counselor. Like it could be me or Jen, if she's your college counselor. It could be somebody at the writing center at your school. But it could also just be a friend. You guys are doing this together. I'm sure you know other seniors applying to college. So just like sit down and have fun with this together and laugh about stories in your life that are important to you or significant to you, because then it's just more fun that way. And you're going to come up with better ideas because they're going to ask you questions and have you clarify things. And it will really start to take shape in a much cooler way if you do it with somebody. Another way to do this is looking for inspiration. Like, again, that example about the stickers on the water bottle. Like, look around your room. That person maybe was just like, I don't know what to write about, and was like literally going through their house, their belongings, and saw their stickers and felt inspired. Go through your Instagram. If you have an Instagram, look back on like what kinds of things do you tend to share and why. Do you guys have Instagram? Am I so lame that I've talked about it twice now? Maybe. But just go and look through photo albums, or again, how old do I sound? Photo albums on your phone. You have photo albums though, so do it on your phone, to look for stories in your life that maybe you haven't thought of in a while, but when you really do reflect on them, they're important. And read other examples. That's one of the best ways to kind of spark something else, is like you read about somebody else's experience and that reminds you of something. So I'm going to share a link with some resources with some really good examples you can read that might get your own wheels turning about your own experiences. Okay, so you brainstormed. Now you get to outline. Please write an outline. It's going to be so much better if you do. It's so, you guys, if somebody sends me their admissions essay and says, can you help me edit this? I can tell right away if they had some sort of outline or structure in mind before they wrote it. Narrow down those themes and ideas, right? If it's all over the place, I'm like, you did not outline. So create that kind of structure that's going to make it easy to read. Think of kind of, okay, what generally is my hook going to be? What's the problem that I'm going to bring up and why it's important, and expand on it, and then tie it all up at the end, maybe tie it into my future. So just think through how it's going to flow, what it's going to look like. Make sure you're looking back at the prompt when you do this, so that it's helping you stay on track with, okay, am I really talking about what they want to hear as I'm writing this outline out? And hey, what do you know? I'm going to encourage you to ask somebody. To look over it. So again, find that whoever it is, your English teacher, your mom, whoever, at least one person to look over it and make sure it sounds coherent and they're tracking with you. Okay. And then the fun begins, at least in my opinion, because then you get to start writing it out. And again, just have fun. Start bigger, start crazier, start with more figurative language. It's always easier to generally hone it in than it is to expand. So just let the writing wind take you where it will, and let it be bad. Let it be bad at first. That's great, because at least it's something. I've talked about, involving people in the process. At the same time, don't ask once you have a draft, don't send it to like 6 different people and ask for notes, because then it's going to pull you in a lot of different directions. So find 2 people, maybe 3, that you feel like you really trust, and ask them to now be part of the drafting and revising phase. I think 1 person is probably ideal, but if you have multiple people in your life that you want eyes on your work from, then great. So as long as you have 1, and that person is actually giving you edits. If you give your essay to somebody and they say, looks awesome, just submit it. No, it might look great and it might be ready to submit, but get a second opinion. It's like going to the doctor's office. Always get a second opinion in situations like that. And please remember that there is no such thing as a perfect essay. You could revise and revise and revise and revise until the cows come home. There's going to be a deadline. You're going to need to accept this looks good. It captures who I am, captures what I want them to know about me, and there's such a thing as good enough. So, and when it comes to the drafting phase, I love this quote. It's perfectly okay to write garbage as long as you edit brilliantly. So really hone in on that editing process, involve people you trust, and have fun with it, because they can tell if you've had fun writing your essay or not. So usually they can tell. These are the resources that I wanted to share with you guys. I'm not going to actually click in on these, but the college essay guy, oh my gosh, his nickname is the college essay guy. He has a whole website with workbooks worth of activities to do to brainstorm and prep and give you ideas. And he has, oh my gosh, so many. There's in his website, one link in particular that has free resources. So go there, click around, explore. He's the one, like I said, he has the values sort activity that I think is awesome. If you are applying to one of the UC schools, hopefully you kind of started your essays by now, because that application is due in just a couple weeks. So there's this awesome guide that a resource called Ingenious Prep has put together with tips and tricks about how to answer the UC school essays, and just, yeah, be strategic with those. I think it's written by a UC admissions counselor. So kind of the inside scoop. This essay, no, it's like a little article. It's written by an admissions counselor, and I love it. Please read it. It's short and sweet, but it gives this great advice about writing like Goldilocks. So, being professional, but not too professional, and being figurative, but not too figurative. And it's just great. It will definitely help, especially with your editing process. And then here's that link I said with great examples. So this is put together by Johns Hopkins, and they are literally sharing essays that they loved from previous years. So those are essays that worked, essays that got students into Johns Hopkins and can get your wheels turning too. So I'm going to pause there before we go over any announcements. Well, actually, no, let me go through these announcements, and then I'll open it up for questions. So just a couple of things. There's going to be a virtual college fair on November 3rd. We've like specifically signed Baker students up to be a part of. And so you can register for it here. I'm going to share these slides on our blog at the end of the week. And so you can find the link to register there. It's also on our college career calendar on our college career website. It's just going to be a good opportunity there will be other high school students there. It's not like a Zoom session. It's this really cool online platform where you can just click around and learn about other colleges that you might not know about, talk with admissions counselors over like a really cool kind of chat feature, and they can share resources with you. Anyways, just a cool opportunity if you're looking for another school or two to add to your list. Like I said, we have a college career calendar. So there's more on there that is worth checking out just to see what's going on. And just a quick plug for the FAFSA. If you have not filled out your FAFSA yet, today is not today. Go to bed after this. Go do homework and then go to bed. But maybe do your FAFSA this weekend. It is the federal financial aid application, and a lot of schools, if you're applying, especially if you're applying early admissions, with those deadlines, they usually want to see this early too. They want your FAFSA to be submitted early too, to be considered for financial aid and scholarships. So make sure you're getting that done. We have resources for you to help with that as well on our blog mostly, but also feel free to just reach out and ask for some help individually. So in 2 weeks, we'll be here again for our last session in this webinar series, but and like I said, just going to talk about scholarships. So hopefully you can tune in then. If not, it will be on our blog as well. And now I'm going to have a drink of water. I'm going to stop recording and stop sharing my screen.